Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. This is ELD with Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic the Gathering. This time we have Vintage, filmed with a mobile setup from Gaming Etc. That is in Acton, Massachusetts, and they have Legacy and Vintage events every month, as well as a healthy weekly schedule. I like to make it down for Vintage when I can. I'm actually on Dredge here, Max, on a very unusual Rug Loam list, using cards like Dak Faden and Life from the Loam to really drag out the game and bury the opponent in just overwhelming card advantage. Of course, a bunch of other planeswalkers and spiciness in this homebrew. And going to be mulling to 6. Leyline of the Void coming down pre-game, Bazaar of Baghdad. This is the top 4 of this event. And Bazaar discarding Bulgari Grave Troll and some goodness. But on the other side of the board here, oh my goodness, Lotus, Emerald, Sapphire, and Tropical Island. 7 mana available. And it looks like Chandra coming down. Sorry, 6 mana available. Chandra coming down, and she will actually make 2 red to enable Jace the Mind Sculptor. So a pair of planeswalkers, a pair of 4 mana planeswalker available on the first turn here from Max. Will that be enough? Jace can bounce creatures, Chandra can shoot them down, but Dredge can create a very large horde and go quite wide. Mac's going to be able to see like 5 cards a turn here. He's going to need some type of graveyard hate. But it looks like things are just coming out too fast here. Dakmar Salvage, Dredge back getting 3 Bloodghast. Some really, really good cards entering the graveyard here on these Dredges. 3 Bloodghast with the Dakmar Salvage. Those guys are past the goalie onto the battlefield, and prized amalgams are going to sneak in as well. So even if Max does find some type of graveyard hate, he has to contend with a huge board. And those Bloodghast being sacrificed to Dread Return. I'm going to go ahead and get Icarid, and that's going to KO the Jace. So a very unusual line there. But still setting up a near lethal. Let's see here. We've got 18 damage. So near lethal for Max. He's got that Chandra and a Brainstorm. Icarid in the graveyard threatening actual lethal. We can see there are at least 1 black creature to remove. So Max back up against the wall, even having a pair of planeswalkers on the first turn. It is of note that everything in Max's graveyard is actually exiled here. That is an exile pile because of Leyline of the Void. Like this should do it here unless he has some type of instant speed response. 18. Max at 19. Looks like we'll have over 20 points of damage here. And he realizes there's definitely no way out. Does not feel like going through the motions. The force and error. Definitely going to remember that Icarid. And that is a crazy start from both players. Go ahead and mark that round 1. Going into round 2 here, Max is going to need to find his artifacts. I did play him in the Swiss rounds as well. And there, I believe he had Tormod's and Grafdigger's Cage. But he's got... Typically for Dredge, what I'm sideboarding in is Hollow 1 in pretty much every matchup. That guy is a 0 mana 4/4 and does give you a way to completely sidestep the main jousting that happens over the graveyard. Vintage decks very often have about half of their sideboard dedicated toward being able to interact with the Dredge, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. But yeah, there are cards that can kind of splash over to other archetypes. But in general, you really need to have a solid amount of cards that you can actually interact with, because so many cards are dead versus this strategy. I mean, discard really doesn't work. You're putting stuff into their graveyard. Counter spells largely ineffective. You're not even casting most of your creatures. And of course, Cabal Therapy is a card that you can get tremendous use out of. This does have mana, so you can actually cast Therapy and flash it back. Really tough to try and keep things in your hand against Dredge. And of course, on board, they can go extremely wide. So it's very difficult to interact with Dredge, and people tend to have really powerful effects in their sideboard to try and completely shut down the strategy. And most of those are going to be inexpensive artifacts or enchantments. There are some cards like Ravenous Trap, which can see play from the hand, but those are very difficult to use well, and they definitely get kind of hit to their value when you're playing against stronger players. A card like Ravenous Trap, for example, your opponent can dredge up into a certain point and then actually just go ahead, pump the brakes, Cabal Therapy, make sure that things are good, and then continue to move on. So really, it functions when it's truly a trap, when they don't know about it, and it just kind of catches them off guard. So Max here mulling to 6 and actually opening up with exactly that type of card, Grafdigger's Cage. That is going to completely stop any type of graveyard shenanigans. And a second Grafdigger's Cage here. Discarding some pretty bad cards so far. And Gurmag Angler does shed a little bit of light on why those cards were kind of so weak. Generally, you don't want to be discarding Narcomy, but you usually have better things to discard. But if you're just going to be exiling them anyways to the zombie fish, you might as well throw the garbage first. And there's some Dredgers. And Ingot Chewer taking out a Grafdigger's Cage. So Mana Confluence doing some serious work here. And there's another Ingot Chewer. Now with the sacrifice trigger on the stack, going to go ahead and dredge, hoping to hit some bridge from below. Be nice to get some extra value here off of that body going to the graveyard. But it is not to be. Five more damage. A 2-turn clock here. Bazaar Baghdad bringing in Bloodghast. Interestingly, could have played that Bazaar prior, and that would have given a higher probability of hitting a bridge from below. But it looks like was saving that for the Bloodghast trigger. And just a fistful of cards that are not going to get there. Jack Faden and a single land. So that was a very compressed game. Gurmag Angler really setting a serious clock and sidestepping the traditional graveyard hate. You made it to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you want to help the channel, you can click like or subscribe, or you can check out some of our other videos covering Magic's most powerful formats. Thanks for watching.